Hey, friends! Welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. Come join me, your host, Nicole, for some hope filled conversations about heartfelt entertainment that makes your heart swing. Hey, Hallmarkies! Welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. I'm your host, Nicole, and today I couldn't be more excited to be chatting with writer, director, and Hallmark favorite, Ashley Williams. Welcome, Ashley. I'm thrilled to have you on the
Thank,
show today.
thank you so much, Nicole. I've been wanting
Of
to do this
course.
podcast for so long.
Yes.
So I feel like,
Oh,
there's obviously the Hallmark audience is big and
yeah.
wide, but you podcasters really are,
Oh,
have your finger on the pulse in terms of
oh.
what's
Thank
new
you.
and what's out, and your taste level is awesome. So I'm
Oh,
so
thank
happy to be
you.
here, and thank you so
Oh,
much for being a
oh.
fan.
You are fabulous, and I loved meeting you at Rama Drama in 2022.
Mhm.
That was so much
Yeah,
fun.
it was a long time ago now, but yeah.
I
Yeah, it
know,
was the
yeah.
screening of Two Tickets to Paradise, right?
That's right. Yes, I was not at that, unfortunately, because I didn't
Oh,
have that
okay.
ticket.
You've probably seen Two Tickets to Paradise now,
I
so you
have.
didn't miss anything. Yeah.
No, it's a great movie. A lot of my friends, though, were at that event, and they had a great time.
Yeah.
As a part of this year's Passport to Love, Hallmark recently released To Barcelona with Love and To Barcelona Forever, where you play a character named Anna. What first drew you to the scripts, and what were some of your favorite spots, scenes, or memorable experiences while filming in Spain?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, first of all, I had the idea for these movies,
Okay.
and I brought them to. It was actually the longer story is that I was at LAX airport, and I was not feeling good about myself. And I went, I love to write, but writing is so difficult. Nikki DeLoach will tell you it's one of the hardest ways to spend your time. Um, and I was not feeling good about myself, and I was feeling like a bad writer. And I went into a Hudson News, and I was looking at all these like romance novels, and I was like, maybe I could write a romance novel. And then I was like, nah, I wouldn't be good at that. And then I was looking at some of them had been translated into other languages, international airport. And I thought, the only way I would ever have a successful book is if an actually good writer translated it in a different language and then people read that book. And then I thought, that's kind of a funny idea, for a movie. And then about 8 hours later or so, I was at a Hallmark party. Uh, and it was 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was sitting at the bar, and Julie Sherman Wolfe was there. And I said, I had kind of like a funny idea. It's really just the zygote of an idea. And I told her the idea, and she was like, "Yeah, it's not a bad idea, but I think we would need another Hallmark actress who spoke a different language, or else we couldn't make the movie." And right then, Allison Sweeney was walking by, and I said, "Hey, Allie," and by the way, love Allie, been friends with her for a while, and always wanted to work with her. And I said, "Hey, Allie, do you speak another language?" And she said Spanish. And I turned to Julie and I said, "So it's set in Barcelona." And Hallmark history was made. um, yeah, so that's really how it
Awesome.
came about. And Barcelona, I had been to Barcelona. I did something called Camino de Santiago, which is the road to Santiago, which is actually a pilgrimage from the east side of Spain to the west side of Spain, and you basically walk the whole way. Um, and it's a very old historical walk that's sort of like a pilgrimage um to get forgiven for your sins. That's not why I was doing it, but I did think it was kind of interesting. By the time you get to Santiago, if you've made it, then you're forgiven for all of your sins. And I'm not a deeply religious person, but it was like a kind of a cool thing to do when I was like 21, 22. But in the middle of it, in the middle of doing the road to Santiago, I was with a girlfriend, and she quit. Um, and we were supposed to be doing it together. And I was so heartbroken that she gave up. And my friend was a nanny in Barcelona, and I called my friend. So this would have been like 2001. Hi, Neil. This is my husband, Neil. Guest appearance.
Nice to meet you,
Careful,
Neil.
it's plugged in. She says, Nicole says, nice to meet you. Nice. Okay. Anyway, so I ended up going to Barcelona for the weekend, and it was the most magical weekend. And I always wanted to go back there. And it was so cool because when we shot these movies, I got to go back to all of those same places, all the sort of like hot tourist spots, Sagrada Familia and all the different Gaudi, creations. It was so cool. So it was really cool to come back, 25 years later and revisit as like a grown up, all those
Yeah,
places.
that's awesome. And I've never been to Spain, but I've heard it's a beautiful country.
Well, if you've watched the Barcelona movies,
I have,
you've
yes.
you've basically been to Spain.
Yes, you've basically been to Spain. So, To Barcelona with Love and To Barcelona Forever marks your fourth and fifth on location film for Hallmark. What do you enjoy about on location shooting? And where is a dream location you'd love to film if you got the chance that you haven't yet?
Mm. I mean, it's interesting. Like when you're working in a city, it's very different than going there on vacation, you know?
Yeah.
Um, when you're on vacation, you're kind of, I mean, my goal always when I'm on vacation is to rest, restore, relax. And it's not as much about like the tourist places. It's more about live it like when we go to Paris, it's like we want to go to coffee shops and read poems and drink coffee and stare at people and walk a lot, you know? We're not necessarily like get to the top of the Eiffel Tower people. But it's interesting working in on location because, each time I've worked on location, you are kind of going to these monumental, places that you associate with that famous city. And then in so many ways, you're just trying to like figure out where the bathrooms are and where's my coffee, and I got to learn my lines. And it's a really different way of visiting the city because you're there trying to do your job, which is in some ways really cool because you feel a little bit like a local, but in other ways, it's kind of like there were things about Spain when I rapped where I was like, I just want to be able to chill here for a little bit and like rest and read and go to all the museums and really drink in the Spanish culture, which was so profoundly different than US culture. Like US culture is much more of like a hustle climate, like what can I get done in a day? What do you do for a living? What have you accomplished? What are your stats? You know what I mean? And this was much more like they work in order to live, which was really, really probably the biggest thing I learned from being in Spain was the reminder that we don't always have to be in a rush in order to feel like we deserve to relax. Like I feel like
Yeah.
when I was a kid, I was only allowed to watch TV once my and my chores were done,
Hmm.
and I feel like I still have that same mentality, like, oh, I haven't earned it.
Hmm.
I haven't earned the right to
Hmm.
relax, And in
Yeah.
Spain, like that's you're born with the right to relax,
Hmm. Yeah.
And on the weekends, they would go to the beach for 10 hours and fall asleep in the sun, and
Hmm.
they would cook and hang out with each other. And on weekends, like we're much more metered in the States. Like,
Hmm.
well, they're coming at 6 o'clock, so dinner's going to be at 7:30, and
Hmm.
hopefully they'll be gone by 9:30 or so that we can
Hmm.
go to sleep, or maybe like watch our show and then go to
Yeah.
sleep. Like it's all so sort of
Yeah.
metered. And in
Hmm.
Europe, it's just such a different feel. And that was really, I found that really inspiring. I've never been to Greece. I know that they've shot Hallmark movies there. It's that island feel,
Hmm.
That
Yes.
would be amazing. But also, when I was 15, I went with my YMCA camp international exchange program to
Yeah.
Kenya, and we
Oh,
went
wow.
to Kenya, and we went to this we were in Kenya for a couple months, but for 2 weeks we were doing this service project in this tiny little village, and we had
Oh,
homestays. We were all living in people's homes locally. And,
Mhm.
you know, um, that's really like being of service
Mhm.
is to me
Mhm.
like the secret to shooting on location.
Mhm.
Like I was just in Bulgaria shooting something, and on the weekends I was like trying to figure out if I could run over to Romania to like go volunteer in an
Okay.
orphanage. Like that's to me that's what it's all about, and I would love
Mhm.
to go someplace that isn't as much about like resort feel,
Mhm.
but more about like the rugged study of a different culture and how I could potentially be of service there in my downtime, because the plane ticket and getting there is so hard, but then once you're there, like what the skill set of, you know,
Mhm.
somebody like me or you, like what we can offer is
Mhm.
like free labor,
Yeah.
generosity of
Mhm.
spirit, kindness, you know,
Yeah.
handing out
Yeah.
band-aids.
Mhm.
To me, that would be that's sort of the magic. So I would love
Yeah.
to go back to Kenya, or, you know, I know they do a lot of shooting in South Africa.
Mhm.
So something like that would be really cool.
Yes. And I'm like you, I love getting out and doing mission work, so to speak. I haven't been in a couple years, but one of my favorite things that I normally do every summer is go on a mission trip up in the upstate in South Carolina to help prepare homes for people who can't afford to
Oh,
do it
that's
themselves.
magic. That's
Hmm.
magic. I mean, you're right. Like, it's so easy to be like, I want to go to a
Hmm.
third world country and hang out. But the truth is, like, we in the United States need so much
Hmm.
help, you know?
Yeah.
There's so much in food insecurity. Like, my sister runs
Yeah.
this nonprofit called The Store, which is basically like a grocery store, except everything is
Hmm.
free, so that you still get the dignity of being able to go and like choose your own produce and
Yeah.
choose what you want, but it's all
Hmm.
free. And that's
Yeah.
because food insecurity is such a big
Hmm.
issue, especially in the
Yeah.
Tennessee area. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
It's very humbling every year I go. You really see how good you have it and how some people don't have as much.
yeah. And I also feel like just as humans, like existentially, we're all
Hmm.
a little bit uncomfortable, you
Hmm.
know, all the time, or I had a bad
Yeah.
day, or I'm stressed,
Hmm.
or gosh, I'm running out of money, or
Hmm.
whatever it is that we
Yeah.
have to complain about. And my mom and dad used to always say to me, like, if you ever aren't feeling good about yourself, do something nice for somebody else. And it
Hmm.
always works. It
Yeah.
always makes me feel better. You know,
Same.
like
Yes.
doing something nice for somebody else, I'm like,
Hmm.
everything's okay now, you know,
Yeah.
no matter
Hmm.
how worried I am, you know. So anyway, being
Very
able to
true.
wrap that into my job is, you know, would be really
Yeah.
cool.
Yes. So Spain is famous for its history, vibrant culture, and cuisine. How do you think the films highlight the beauty and significance of Spanish culture for audiences who might be unfamiliar with it? And what was the most unforgettable dish you had while filming?
Well, for those of you that saw the Barcelona movies, you know that I
Mhm.
created a character who's obsessed with eating, which
Yes.
was a hysterical challenge to give myself.
Yeah.
And I'm not an actress who can handle like a scene. Like if you ever see me in a movie
Hmm.
and my character is eating, I am eating. Like it's not like I'm taking a piece of lettuce and, you know, chewing it for
Hmm.
45 minutes. It's complicated to really eat. Because each scene, you shoot each scene for about three, sometimes 4 hours, you know, so you're eating that same sandwich over and over and over again. And like the scene that I did with Miguel Broca in Barcelona Forever, when we're licking ice cream cones, it was this like torturous Sisyphean thing where I was licking an ice cream cone for 3 hours, but I never got down to the cone. Like it was just ice cream, ice cream, ice cream, ice cream. For me, the best part of an ice cream cone is getting down to the cone and getting that like different texture and the crunch and you know, and I never got there. So that was hard. That was just one of the like hard things, you know. And just trying to negotiate. Allie and I talk about this a lot. Like when you take a bite of something when you're doing a scene and you know you have to speak soon, all you're doing while you're chewing is trying to figure out if you're going to have enough time to chew the thing and swallow it before you have to say your line. It's so complicated. So something like one of my favorite things that I ate when I was in Spain is this dish called patatas bravas, which is like basically just the greatest potatoes you've ever had in your whole life with a really yummy sauce that you can like dip. And those were really easy because they were smaller bites, but sometimes I would be like, biting into like a huge sandwich. Like Spain has amazing sandwiches, and I would like be biting into a huge sandwich, take a huge honking bite, and then I would be like, what am I gonna do? How am I going to say my next line with this huge bite of sandwich in my mouth? It was hysterical. Um, so yeah, I would say patatas bravas if you go to Spain, order that the first night. And in terms of like culture, et cetera, in Spain, one of the things I loved was just the detail in the architecture. I live in Los Angeles, which is much more new construction. And also very cool, like some Spanish style houses and stuff like that, terracotta, etc. But the architecture in Spain, like I stayed in this Airbnb in Barcelona, and just the stairwell. Like I remember at one point I was like running, down, and I was just running down the stairs to get to work, and I was just like, wow, the detail in this stairwell is like museum worthy, like just beautiful. Like some artisan sat here for months sculpting and painting and designing this incredible architecture in this nothing stairwell in this random building in Barcelona. And having the opportunity to realize that art could be in any corner was kind of an inspiring way of looking at the world. Like often in the United States, I feel like construction is about like, get it done. We're trying to resell it. We're trying to get it so that we can get it Instagram worthy or, whatever it is. And instead, this was, you can make art out of a banister, like true real art, or your windows. The window frames can be art,
Yes.
and that was a really cool aspect to the culture that I hadn't
Yeah. Yeah.
anticipated.
Yes. Very true. And I love architecture. I am a graphic design major. That's what I
No way.
graduated with. So I did take a lot of art classes, art history, and then classes where I learned about architecture in different
You
countries.
have
That
to go
was,
to Barcelona. You have to go and see the Gaudi stuff up close because when I came around the corner and I saw the
yeah,
Sagrada Familia, I literally gasped. Like it took my breath
beautiful.
away.
Yeah.
It's
Wow. Yeah.
unbelievable. Just
Yeah.
it's not even beautiful. It's just I mean it's beautiful, but it's
Hmm.
also
Yeah.
so startlingly specific
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
weird and complicated and an insight into his brain
Hmm.
that just makes you
Yeah.
see the world in a completely different way.
Yes. I think, in
Really
fact,
cool.
I took art history in ninth grade. I think that was my art class in ninth grade, was art history.
I'm sorry. You have to go to Barcelona. You have
I'd
to.
love to. It looks like a beautiful place. If you could give your co-star, Allison Sweeney, a book for St. George's Day, what would it be?
Ooh. I mean, my favorite book of all time is a book called The History of Love. The lead female character is named Alma, which we had I have a 10-year-old boy and his name is Gus, but if he had been a girl, it would have been Alma. And now we have a dog named Alma. Um, that book speaks to me on so many levels. In so many ways, it's about sort of a past life with a love and the juxtaposition of past life and current life. And Allie is, I don't know why particularly that would be good for Allie. I mean, it's just a good read. Um, but yeah, something like that would be great. I'm really specific about books. Like somebody saying like you're gonna love this book. first of all, I go like, all right, I'll be the judge of that. Like I immediately get way more discerning, when someone recommends a book to me because I'm like, don't tell me what I'll like. Or if I have too high expectations of the book, I end up feeling disappointed, right? It's kind of like movies that way. So it's a big deal because it's not to recommend a book to somebody or to give a book to somebody because it's not like a mixtape where you're like, I made you this list of songs that I think are going to speak to you because you can skip through the mixtape, you can listen to it in an hour. But with a book, that's like 5 or 6 hours of committed, like, hey, read this. This is for you. It's a big deal. So that's what I love about St. Geordie's Day. It's kind of it's pretty bold to recommend a book. So yeah, I would recommend that one to Allie just because I think she would really
Yeah,
enjoy the read. But
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know about like how I would suggest a book for her that I was like, I think you need to read this because I think
Okay.
you have something to learn. Like that's like, ooh,
Yeah, yeah,
I wouldn't want to be so presumptuous. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. Exactly. I don't know what I would suggest. That's a tough one because I've read a lot of good books.
Right? Right?
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
so many good books out there in the world.
Hmm.
Into Barcelona Forever, Anna tells Erica that's the best thing about life. There's always another chapter to write. If you were to write a memoir one day, what would you call it and what would the first chapter be?
Oh my gosh, this is such a good question. I have this joke where like a couple times a week I'll be like, "Oh, that's the name of my memoir." Like I'll come back out, "Hey, can I get another cup of coffee? That's going to be the chapter of my new memoir." Um, so I don't know. I think it definitely depends on which part of my life I'm writing about. I come from my parents were both journalists and I come from like a long my sister's a writer. I come from a long history of writers. So I think this time in my life, I mean, if you're getting me today, I dropped my children off at sleepaway camp a couple of days ago and I went immediately. Basically, I dropped my kids off with my husband. I sobbed in the car for 20 minutes, not because I was sad, but because I realized they were going to be okay without me. And then we went straight to Burger King and we got Whoppers and frozen Cokes and danced around with like the crowns on our head. And then we went to this super luxurious hotel for a couple of days and just decompressed. Um, and much like I was speaking about earlier, I live a life that is very much like I'm sprinting. Like I wake up at 5:36 in the morning and I don't stop moving until I basically drop dead, at 9:30 or 10 at night. Um and it's too busy. Like my life is too busy right now. I'm almost hyperly productive right now. There's not a lot of time for wonder. And so if I were to write a book about my life this week, it would probably be called make time to wonder, you know? But I think honestly, like for a mom like me who has to live her life so vigilantly, it's you can't really do that unless you know your kids are 100% okay.
Mhm.
And now I'm getting these pictures from camp. They're so happy. The reports are good. They're not homesick. My 8-year-old is doing
Mhm.
all this nature clay, and my 10-year-old, they're getting pictures of him like in a
Mhm.
canoe. And knowing they're okay means that I can look to myself and figure out what I want to do for the first time, maybe in 10 years, you know?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
pretty profound. I wouldn't want to spend the next week I have while they're still at sleepaway camp writing a memoir. But if I did, that would be the subject matter. And that would be probably, what it would be called, something about that.
Yeah.
Like I'm realizing I don't have a lot of time to wonder about things right now, that,
Yeah.
huh, that's interesting. That phrase
Yeah.
doesn't enter my mind very often because there's just no time?
Yeah. I love that, and I would read it. for sure.
You would? Oh, thanks,
Yes,
Nicole. And then I'll
you're
come on your
welcome.
podcast to talk about it.
Yes, of course. So, what is the core message or feeling you hope audience take away from To Barcelona with Love and To Barcelona Forever?
It's interesting because a lot of the times in these Hallmark movies, it's
Mm-hmm.
centered around, a really strong,
Mm-hmm.
exciting romantic love story.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
these movies have that,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Allie's character finds, or sort of
Mm-hmm.
realizes love
Mm-hmm.
out loud,
Yeah.
um, and, is with her perfect match. And
Mm-hmm.
my character, out of nowhere finds this man who's the perfect match for
Mm-hmm.
her. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but really, the through line, what differentiates this movie from others is this through line of female friendship. And in so many
Mm-hmm.
ways, Erica, Allie's character, sacrifices what she really wants and needs because she wants to make her best friend happy. And the message is not to do that, but what we learn about Erica from that is how selfless she is and how important she sees female friendship in her life. And this new female best friend that she makes, in so many ways, like the female friendships that I have, a lot of which are my Hallmark colleagues. Nikita Loach lives 10
Mm-hmm.
minutes from me. She is one of my best friends in the whole world. Same with Erin Cahill, Sarah
She's
Drew.
awesome.
These people are my, you know, they're my they're my real, like, don't tell my
Mm-hmm.
husband. I love
Yeah.
those women. I love
They're
those
great.
women.
They're
They're
great.
great people. And,
Yeah.
and I think in so many ways, that's one of the through line, the red thread of these movies
Mm-hmm.
is about how critically important female friendship is for
Mm-hmm.
women, especially as we continue to age, as my
Mm.
colleagues and I do.
I love that. And always love a good female friendship centered movie.
hmm Me too, with
But
some love in there as well. Like
yes,
you still get to kiss the guy at the end, you know?
yes, yep. Like one of my favorite rom-coms that's not Hallmark is Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
Oh, I loved that movie.
So let's turn the hands of time back and learn a little bit more about Ashley Williams. Everyone always wants to know, how did you get started in the film and TV industry and what inspired you to become an actor?
Yeah, well, I have my big sister is an actress. So
Hmm.
Kimberly
Yeah.
is 7 years older than me. And, as a baby, she was like 7.5 when I was born, and I was her baby. I mean, she would carry me around, she would change my diapers. She was my mom. And by the way, my mom is
Oh,
also great and my dad is
oh,
great, but my
oh,
sister really was like in so many ways my caretaker. And that meant that as I grew up, she was my
mm,
idol. She still is, by the way. Like my sister
mm,
she's my litmus. She's my
mm,
goal in life, and
yeah.
it's as simple as basically when she started acting, it was just I want to do that too. It was the same thing. She started riding a bike, me too. She started
Oh,
eating mushrooms, me too. You know what I mean? Like
oh,
I just
yeah.
wanted to be just like her.
Mm,
Um, so it was different because we're very different actors, like my she's an incredibly funny person.
mhm,
But
yeah.
my movies tend to be a little bit more like on the comedy side,
Mhm,
a little bit broader,
mm,
But my sister is so gorgeous, and I was always like, well, I'm never going to be that gorgeous, so I have to be funny, self-deprecating, and have my kind of spirit shine through,
mhm,
And I think that's in many ways like where the comedy stuff came from, like
mhm,
she's the beautiful one, I'm the funny one. That being said,
mhm,
she's so funny and I can't wait.
mhm.
Like, those of you that watched According to Jim, like she is a comedic genius on that show. And all of her Darrow and Darrow movies,
Love
oh
those.
my God, those are like hilarious,
Love them.
Um, but it was different. Like I think she's probably more subtle than me. I'm a little bit more goofy and, very much like kind of a little bit more of a clown, you know?
Mm.
Like it's just different. So anyway, I think that, I got off topic there, but I became an actress because she was an actress. And also our next door neighbor growing up was a soap opera actress named Anna Holbrook, who was on Another World,
Yeah.
and we both idolized her as well. So she was the one that took pictures of Kim and got her an agent and got her auditioning. And really, like, if it wasn't for Anna Holbrook, I don't think Kim and I would have become actresses.
Oh. Well, thank you to Anna because you're both fantastic.
Thank you.
When you're given a role, what is your process like for learning the script and getting into that character?
Oh my gosh. It's very weird and complicated. I read the script top to bottom once through, and then I read it again and I write notes all over it. Um, and then I really like to do a read through of the whole script with the cast before we start shooting, just so that I can like really understand the purpose of each scene in terms of the overarching story, because really, especially in a Hallmark movie, every single scene has a purpose, like whether it be to show the audience a certain character trait or to remind the audience about this thing we're trying to figure out, this C story that we're trying to get to the resolution of by the end. Or, this is the scene in the movie where the romantic leads realize that they have feelings, but they're too scared to say something. They all have like a very distinct purpose, and knowing that purpose is critical because when we're shooting like 10, sometimes 12 pages a day. And it moves so fast that there are some times when you come in and you're like, I don't even remember like, we're making cookies, but like, what are we doing? Like, what's the point? Because it's not about making cookies. That's just fun. It's about like, oh, this is the scene where I start to relax with him, or this is the scene where he learns my passion for life, via decorating cookies or whatever it is. But yeah, so that's part of it. And then the night before we shoot is the night I memorize the lines. Because if I memorize them further ahead of that, I get confused about which scene we're doing, and I will say a line for a different scene, etc. So, night before, I memorize the whole thing, and then on the way into work in the morning, I go through all the scenes for the day, and then I keep doing that when I'm in the hair and makeup chair, which is usually about an hour. Uh, and then we dive in, and usually the hardest scene is up first. So the mornings are really intense, and then the afternoons, and this is speaking generally, there's exceptions to this, but the afternoons are usually a little bit more like what I call bips and bops scenes, like connective tissue, like
Yeah,
us
yeah,
walking to the trolley and having like a walk and talk,
yeah.
or, we're like a shorter scene would be in the
Mhm.
afternoon,
Yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah.
Yeah, when I wrap them for the day, and then I get back in the car, and then I just right away start memorizing the next day's lines. And then I walk in the door, I take a shower, I go straight to bed, I wake up, brush my teeth, and I'm out the door in 5 minutes the next day, and we do
Wow.
it all over again.
Do it all over again. Yep. That's a great process. And I probably would do around the same thing. I remember when I was in school and then outside of school, I took a drama class or a theater class. Memorizing lines was always my biggest concern. Like, am I going to forget a line?
Yeah, and by the way, I do all the time. I forget lines all the time. I'll, right in the middle scene, I'll go, I have no idea what I'm supposed to say.
Yes.
Happens all the time, which
Oh
was
my
awkward
goodness.
because it never happens to Allison Sweeney. She always knows
Oh,
her lines
oh my goodness. From any of your movies, is there any funny moments that have ever happened on set?
all the
Any
time.
bloopers? All the time.
All the time. I mean, like I did this movie with Marcus Rosner called Notes of Autumn
Yes. It's a
last
great one.
year with Luke, and it was great. But one time there was this scene where we were supposed to be like taking all these leaves of fall movies. We're taking all these leaves
Hmm.
off of a
Yeah.
table and throwing them up into the air. And they were supposed to be like coming down in slow motion, and we had just been cutting out leaves. I think we were doing some sort of art project, but then there were other leaves. Anyway, there was a pair of scissors on the table. And when I was in the process, they were like, more, 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 because we were doing it in slow mo. So the more leaves I threw, the more exciting it was. So we were just grabbing them and throwing them and grabbing them and throwing them and grabbing them. And I grabbed a pair of scissors and threw them up in the air. And the scissors landed on Marcus Rosner's head and cut his head. And I felt so bad. Um, and he was, of course, amazing about it because he's a total gentleman. But poor Marcus, I mean, he was like, oh, and I was like, oh no. Immediately,
Oh
I was like,
no.
we need ice, we need a medic, we need everything. It was just a tiny little cut, but still, oh my God, it was so awful. I felt terrible.
Oh
Um,
no.
yeah, so stuff like that happens.
Yes. And Marcus is great. The Hardys know and love Marcus from When Calls the Heart, of course.
Yes, yes. He's an awesome, awesome guy.
He's
He
great.
uh
Yes.
he helped me find this amazing director for my women's directing program who just finished her directorial debut.
Awesome.
And well, I'll say more about her in the future. I'd
Yeah,
love to come back on and talk about my women's directing
of
program at some
course.
point.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was instrumental in helping me find her and interview her and
That's
train
awesome.
her,
Yeah.
etc. So he's very
Yeah.
much on the
Yeah.
team make her mark.
Yes. That's so good to hear. So, moving on to Hallmark, you've also worked on projects such as the Christmas and Evergreen series, Two Tickets to Paradise, Five More Minutes, Moments Like These, and Falling Together, which are some of my personal favorites. Could you tell us about how you got connected with the network? And
Yeah.
are there any fun memories to share from filming?
Yeah. Honestly, like I did my first Hallmark movie because it fit in my schedule. I mean, it was
Yeah.
as unromantic as that. Like truly.
Mhm.
Um I have been an actor since I was 11 years old,
Mhm.
and I'm always the kind of person that like I'll be like, oh, sure, I'll do it. Yeah, does the
Yeah.
schedule work out? And then when I got there and started doing the movie, I was like, oh, this is actually like very creative, because in so many
Yeah.
ways, um, you're shooting so fast, and my favorite thing is to find the comedy in the
Mhm.
moment. And that means that I'm constantly kind of rewriting and reworking and trying to find opportunities for impishness and
Mhm.
lightness, and
Yeah.
I found it to be an incredibly creative process. So
Mhm.
I got home from shooting my first Hallmark movie, which was the Halloween movie, October Kiss.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it was so fun.
Yeah.
And so I had all these cool ideas about how I
Mhm.
could potentially, oh, look, it's Neil Dodson again. Hi, babe. Hi, special guest, bonus guest. So cute. Um, so I had so many ideas about it,
Yeah.
and I sort of just came up with a bunch of other ideas. For Hallmark movies, and I
Mhm.
went into network and I pitched three ideas, which
Mhm.
I didn't know how to pitch. This was 10 years ago.
Mhm.
So I just acted out all three movies
Yeah.
for the executives, and they
Mhm.
said, all right, let's do them. So we did, and then my first idea was this movie about a girl who doesn't want a tree to get cut down. And so I did that movie, and then I started, producing and hiring
Mhm.
writers, hiring directors, and Hallmark has always been incredibly responsive to my ideas, and that was
Mhm.
what was so exciting about
Mhm.
pitching the idea for the women's directing program, because one of the
Yeah.
things I noticed after doing a bunch of Hallmark movies was I was like, I have only been directed by men. Why is that?
Yeah.
It's such a
Yeah.
female empowered network.
Mhm. Yeah.
And they really agreed with me. So they said, yeah, we get it. Let's see if we can
Yeah.
train
Awesome.
some women and let's get them some jobs. And we've been able to. It's been amazing.
Yes. It's amazing. Yes. And of course, the Postables were so excited for Crystal being the first recipient of the program. She's
Yeah, it's
amazing.
amazing. And now she's directed 4 movies in the last 18 months, all because of the program and because
Yes.
she's a really good director. But
She's great.
what our program trains women, it doesn't just give them
Yeah.
jobs. And
Yeah.
that's the hope is, it's easy to just
Yeah.
hand out a job, but what's
Mm-hmm.
critical is that you nail it. So that's
Mm-hmm.
really what we
Yeah.
do is making sure that they all do a great job so that they can work
Yeah.
forever. And all we ask is that they thank us in their Oscar speech.
Yes. Is there a particular Hallmark film that you've done that holds a special place in your heart?
Yeah, the movie that I made last year called Falling Together, that one was just straight out of my
Mm-hmm.
heart. I lost my mom to
Yeah.
Alzheimer's disease
Mm-hmm.
years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
the caretaking
Yeah.
aspects and navigating the public and private life of that was very complicated.
Yeah.
My mom was very secretive about her
Yeah.
disease and
Yeah.
full of shame, didn't want us talking about it. And the idea of creating a character named Linda, which was my mom's name,
Mm-hmm.
who wasn't embarrassed about it, was, I think, a mark, really, in so many ways, of just time having passed. My mom was
Mm-hmm.
diagnosed in the early 2000s and it was just a different time to have dementia. There was far more of a stigma attached, and now I feel like more and more people are being diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and the the best option is to speak about it and be honest about why it's hard. And because the caretakers are the ones, the statistics on caretakers versus people they're caring for
Mm-hmm.
are pretty dismal.
Yeah.
Like the mortality rate of caretakers is higher than the mortality rate of the people suffering from the disease. And that's because caretaking takes everything out of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, the idea of telling a story about a woman who was loud and proud about her disease and talking about what she needed in terms of her caretaking and all of that was important. And then it was really
Yeah.
important that we use my comedy sense and casting Paul Campbell, who's a comedic genius.
Mm-hmm.
It was really important. Like I really wanted it to be funny. Like, and by the way, it was totally based on me. Like I got to New York City and all I wanted was to be friends with my neighbors and they wanted no part in it. Um, and I really leaned into the character, the kind of like annoying, like, well, I'll help you, kind of character, which, is an exaggeration, obviously, just to
Mm-hmm.
make it funny. But what if there was like a new neighbor who's just wanting a party at her house? Like, come on over, I'll do it. I'll bring cupcakes.
Yeah.
And working that comedic angle in was really important because the subject matter was so dismal.
Mm-hmm.
And I never ever want people to watch a Hallmark movie and get depressed, and to make a
Mm-hmm.
Hallmark movie about Alzheimer's disease and somebody living with the disease
Mm-hmm.
could potentially be a very, very sad movie. And that's just
Mm-hmm.
not how I roll. Um, so anyway, that movie, there's just so much of me in there. And, Andrew Walker's mother passed away from Alzheimer's, and Nikki
Mm-hmm.
DeLoach's father passed
Mm-hmm.
away from a variant of dementia. And so when she's in the Alzheimer's office, there's people up on the wall, there's pictures up on the wall. So we
Mm-hmm.
had a picture of Nikki's dad who passed away,
Mm-hmm.
my mother, and Andrew Walker's mother, and they were all in a line right there. And that it was such a cool way to honor them and to honor what Nikki and Andrew have gone through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So anyway, that was straight from my heart.
Yeah. It was a beautiful movie, one of my favorites from
Oh, good.
2024.
Four.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. Thank
Yes.
you.
So On another note, you are a spokesperson for the Alzheimer's Association. Would you like to share with my listeners anything about the work you do with the
Yeah,
organization?
absolutely. So Nikki DeLoach and Andrew Walker and I, and a bunch of our other Hallmark friends, Chris Palaha
Mm-hmm.
always comes, Paul Green, we throw a big dance party event.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And this is something that my sister founded, I think 8 years ago
Okay.
now. And this is money that we raise for the Alzheimer's Association, but it's not the overarching Alzheimer's Association, it's the research grant program. So
Okay.
it's specifically money that goes to scientists to forward research in the world of Alzheimer's. So we have been able to fund a lot of specific studies, and we're able to choose which study we want the money to go to, which has been so amazing. And I just have to say Ben Ayers as well, like the Hallmark community,
Mm-hmm.
not just my colleagues, but also the fan base has been so incredibly supportive. I mean, every single
Mm-hmm.
person who's given $10, $15, $100, like you all have shown up for us, and we do these fun little like Hallmark incentives,
Yeah.
and giving away a script or giving away the jacket or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
and doing Insta lives and all of that stuff has just been, it's such a great, speaking back to what we were talking about earlier, like
Mm-hmm.
joining together with your friends to do something good for other people, it has been so fulfilling. And getting to do that with my Hallmark colleagues has really taken our friendship up to the next level in so many ways. So, as you probably know, the Los Angeles area has been decimated in the
Mm-hmm.
last 6 months from
Mm-hmm.
various things, from fires to everything else. And it
Mm-hmm.
does not feel right to be asking our community for money right now, because so many people are struggling to pay their rent
Yeah.
or buy their groceries. So we are going to put the dance party on hold for a year and come back bigger and
Oh,
better in 2026.
yay.
Hopefully, my hope is that people will be breathing a little bit more and that they'll have their feet
Yeah.
under them a little bit more
Yeah.
financially so that we can
Mm-hmm.
throw an amazing event in 2026. So put that on your calendars. It'll be sometime in the
Yeah.
fall 2026 in
Yeah.
Los Angeles. And we'll have all of our favorites, Hallmark people
Yeah.
coming out and dancing and singing.
Yeah.
And it is a rager of a party. So I
That's
encourage
awesome.
all of you to just,
Yeah.
save the date.
Yes, I would love to be there. It looks like so
Oh,
much
I would
fun.
love to have you. Yes.
Yes. So, are there any upcoming projects you can share with my listeners?
I can't right now. I am going to
Oh, no
have
worries.
some exciting Make Her Mark
No
information
worries.
that's going
Okay.
to be coming up in the next couple of
Okay.
months. I all I'm going to say is that I will be doing a Christmas movie, and
Yay.
it hasn't been announced yet, but it
Okay.
is. You know what I'll say is it's quite an adventure, this Christmas
Okay.
movie.
Looking forward to seeing it.
Um, Quite an
Yes.
adventure. So
Okay.
that's exciting, and Make Her Mark. And I'm going to be directing another episode of The Rookie, which is
Okay.
a
Yep.
directing
Great
job
show.
that I did last year, and so they
Yeah.
invited me back to direct another episode this year, which is
That's
huge.
awesome.
So I'm going to be doing that, and yeah, keep an eye out. More than anything
Yes.
else, I'm really hoping to just have time to
Yeah.
wonder.
Yes, of course. At the end of my interviews, I always ask my guest to share an inspiring quote or piece of advice. Do you have an inspiring quote or piece of advice you would like to share with my listeners?
Hmm. One of the things I've seen so much working on the Make Her Mark program is I've seen women and men talking about, we have like this handful of women in the Make Her Mark program and multiple meetings to try to open up job opportunities for them. And what I see on a regular basis and what really moves me is people in meetings talking about other people who have historically been marginalized and advocating for them when they're not even in the room. And that is again, like going back to what we said earlier, like doing something nice for somebody else. We can all right now today advocate for somebody who's not in the room with us to help out one of their goals, or speak on their behalf, or fight for them, etc. And doing that for the women in my program has been so fulfilling. But what's been more moving is seeing somebody like Randy Pope, who's head of production at Hallmark, advocating for up and coming female directors and fighting for them. And they don't even know it. The amount that all of us are fighting for these women, and we've told them they're in our program and we're working to get them jobs. We're fighting for them every day. And we don't need their recognition. We know that we're doing right by them. And any of your listeners, anybody, watching this right now, if there's somebody that you can advocate for right now and never even tell them, it's like a little magical secret that you can carry with yourself, knowing that you did the right thing, speaking on their behalf and fighting for them and opening up doors for them that they'll benefit from for years to come, And it's one tiny little way we can all be of service right now. That really moves me, So that's what I would say, is it's an easy way for you to feel good about yourself is to fight for somebody else and have them not even know,
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for taking the time to come on and chat with me today. I had a great time.
Me too. My pleasure. Yes. I'm so happy we got to finally talk, Nicole. Thank you.
Yes, me too. And where can my listeners find you on social media if they're not following you already?
Yeah, I'm Ashley Williams and Company on Instagram, all one word. Yeah, Sounds good. I have a lot of fun on there. Yeah.
Yes, go follow her, everyone, because she's awesome.
Thank you, Nicole.
You're welcome.
Great to talk to you.
Good to talk to you. All right, everyone. Bye. All right, Hallmarkies. I think that concludes my interview with Ashley Williams. If you enjoyed this episode and are watching on YouTube, you can like this video and share your favorite movie with Ashley in the comments, and what you enjoyed most about To Barcelona with Love and To Barcelona Forever. If you are listening on Spotify, make sure to rate and review, as your feedback is always greatly appreciated. If you want to stay up to date on all of my episodes, you can subscribe to this channel on YouTube or follow along on Spotify, and make sure to turn on the bell so you are alerted when new episodes come. You can also find the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at Swing My Heart Podcast and Twitter at Swing My Heart Pod. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are in the world, and I will see you next time. Love y'all. Bye.